excellent, Julie. Thank you so much for sharing this. We're at the top of the hour, guys. And guess what? Julie just covered it for everybody. So your data is everything, and we need a system that works for you. My name is Aretha Thomas. You all, if you're new here, I'm going to show you how you can engage. We are going to ask you to put your questions in the Q&A. If you put them in the chat, I'm sure Linda will be able to grab them. This is exciting because we're at the end of the year and we know how important data is. We're going to send you the slides and the video replay. I'm going to move out of the way and introduce you to our speaker. Linda Widdop. She is the Chief Innovative Officer for Tech Impact. And I see you guys are still putting in the chat some of the data you're collecting. So, Linda, I'm excited about this webinar, and I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away and give us all these skill sets we're going to need to know about for 2026. Over to you,
Excellent.
Linda.
All right, cool. Thanks. Thanks, Aretha. How about that theme song? Who knew TechSoup had a theme song? That's great. Um, anyway, thanks everybody for joining today. We're going to be talking about data systems, hopefully giving you some good information about the systems that you have now, and maybe if you wanted a new one, how to go about getting a new one. My name is Linda Widdop. I am the Chief Innovation Officer here at Tech Impact. I've been here for 22 years, a long time. I've done plenty of webinars with TechSoup, great partnership there. Um, I talk to a lot of people and, about their data systems and about a lot of technology stuff, help desk stuff and cloud services and all that kind of thing. We've learned a lot over the years, and I hope to share some of that with you today on today's call. Our mission, we're a 501c3 nonprofit. Our mission is to leverage technology to advance social impact. So we provide tech services to nonprofits. We do full spectrum, including, like I said, help desk services, implementation, strategic planning. We do a lot with data systems and data analytics and those kind of things as well. We have educational webinars similar to the one that we're doing today, different topics. And we also run a workforce development program. So we provide job training and placement services for young people who are trying to get their start in the tech field. So that's a little bit about us. We're very proud to be a 20-year TechSoup partner. We've known TechSoup for, well, 22 years. I've known TechSoup for 22 years. Anyway, I apologize in advance. I tried a little something new with the slides. I'm not usually one of those people who does the animation and the building of the slides, but I'm trying it today. At the end of the day, you can let me know whether it was annoying or not, and I'll, try to change it up for next time. So a couple of, these are a lot of questions that we think about when we're talking about data systems, right? Do you target donors with personalized appeals, or do you just send blanket emails, right? In today's world, I think donors are looking for that personal touch. If your system or processes, are not allowing you to do that, then this webinar is probably for you. Are you winning larger grant opportunities based on your ability to convey your story? What are your successes? Why should a funder, plop their money down with you? Data systems are one way that we can get those answers and get that grant application filled out so that we win some more funding opportunities. Is your organization, oh, that's this one. Are you winning larger grant opportunities based on your ability to convey your successes, right? And then is your organization pivoting to meet the needs of your beneficiaries? In other words, are you using your data systems to see which of your services are actually doing the most good? Are you looking at your data and analyzing your data to say, I see that we're doing a really good job over here in this neighborhood or community, and that neighborhood or community over there doesn't seem to have an appropriate service, and maybe we should expand our services over there. All of these questions can really be answered with data, and data systems is the core of how we're going to get to that. We're all in the same boat. I think everybody's in the same boat here. Um, I can count on one hand the number of times somebody said, I love my database and gave me little heart emojis. Like never, right? Everybody has the same opinion of their data systems, right? Um, we never really like them that much. And we have to ask ourselves why. Why don't we like our data systems? It could come down to a number of factors, and we'll talk about those factors throughout the next, whatever 40 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes that we're going to go through this discussion. And I'd love to hear your feedback on a lot of this stuff. So factors to consider. Um, when we're trying to choose a database. We ask those kind of like I pose those questions on the first slide to say, like, are you able to do these things? Right. And another way that we want to think about, and we talk to people about their data systems and their love-hate relationship with their data systems, really, is like, just ask yourself, how much do we do? Right? Is there a system in place that will track how much work we do? Whether that be delivering meals or selling tickets to an event or managing volunteers, how much of that stuff do we do? Right? How well do we do it? Can our data system tell us how well we're doing that? Right? So if we delivered 100 meals, did we do that well? Were we efficient at that? How much did it matter? Sorry. This is why I don't build slides, because I thought it was up there and it's not, right? How much did we do? How well did we do it? How much did it matter? So we delivered 100 meals or we sold 1,000 tickets, but do we have a system in place that tells us what the effects of those meals or those tickets or those volunteer hours had on our beneficiaries, right? Can we track that in our data system? And then finally, how much did we spend on all this, right? Did it cost us, what was the price of the data systems and all of the things that surround that data system? Was the price worth it to do that? So when we think internally here at Tech Impact, or we talk about this to each other at Tech Impact, these are kind of the questions that we're asking about data systems and about how nonprofits use their data systems, right? Can you track how much you do? Can you track or tell us how well you did it? Can you tell a funder how much that work that you did mattered to the community? And then finally, how is it affordable? Is that system affordable to you? So we're going to expand upon this a little bit during the course of the discussion today. We will expand upon this a little bit and ask ourselves, what do we need for success in this area of tracking what we do, tracking how much we do, tracking how well we do it, and how affordable it is, right? And there's going to be these 5 pillars. I want you to take note that tools is only one little piece of this. And it's important for us to note that right off the top of it. I'm going to talk a lot about tools and how to assess tools and all of that stuff, but it's only one piece of the bigger success pack that you would have in using data systems effectively. And it all starts with you, the people, right? Your staff capacity to work within the system and the expertise that you or someone else would need to have. How much is it going to cost? What system are you working in? And finally, what are all those processes that have to take place, the workflows and all of that stuff that have to take place to make that data come in and out properly. We're going to look at each one of these in a, kind of in its own column here over the next couple of minutes. So let's start with staff capacity, right? Who is currently doing the work? In other words, do you have a data manager? Like when I started in this area, when I started at Tech Impact 22 years ago, there was no such thing as a data manager. Everybody just kind of pitched in where they could. And over the years, as our data systems became more essential for our work and more complex and capable, right? The capabilities of those systems grew. We started to see the addition of somebody being designated as a data manager. And that data manager could be a full-time person, that's what their job is, or it could be that they are also the program manager or the HR person or the, whatever, and now they've got to manage the database too. Um, should should the person that's doing, and if you have somebody that you can like right in your mind right now go, oh yeah, that's, whatever, Mary, or that's Joe, or, whoever in your mind, then we have to ask ourselves, should they be doing that work or should they be doing the work that you actually hired them for in the beginning, right? I mean, we know a lot of um, program managers who are now the database administrators. They're really good program managers. They really care about the people that they're serving, and now they're stuck behind a desk doing data management stuff instead of doing what they're really good at or what that they're really passionate about. So maybe like if you're thinking through that, maybe we should put Joe back out in the field doing the really good work that he's doing, and hire somebody who's like a data geek, and would be better suited to that database stuff. And whoever's in there, do they have time for this work? Especially if it's somebody whose job is program manager and they're doing the database. If you've thrown that responsibility onto that person, did you also carve out time and say, listen, Joe, you're going to work, of your 40 hours a week, I'm only going to have you do 20 hours a week of this, field work, and I'm going to carve out this other 20 hours for you to manage the database, or, 30 and 10, whatever that number may be. Did you carve out the space for them to do that? Because if not, we're probably going to have a problem there, right? So how are we making it better, right? Make sure that we're defining data responsibilities in the organization. It should be part of somebody's job description. If you've assigned that person or that person has taken on the responsibility of managing the database or the data systems or the data flows or whatever it is, please put it into their performance goals. Make the job description say, and you're going to manage this database. Not only that, but make sure that you're providing them with the job training to effectively do that. If the tool that you're using is the Razor's Edge, or if it's Salesforce, or if it's Donor Perfect, or if it's a volunteer management thing, or if it's an electronic health records, it doesn't matter. Make sure that you've provided them with training to be successful in that. And if you can't provide them with the training, then provide them with an outside contractor who is an expert in that, system, so that they have somebody that they can work with to improve their skill set or offload tasks so that they can go back to doing the other bit of work that they're doing. So that's the staff component. That's the staff component. What I'm talking about here is the person responsible for the data systems. There are other staff considerations that go beyond that person in terms of everybody who interacts with that system should know how to use it. And we need to provide them with training as well, right? Up their skill set, make time to enter the database. My wife is an optometrist and she works 1 day a week at the VA hospital. She's a low vision, she works in the low vision clinic with veterans. She used to have 60-minute 60-minute appointments because it takes a lot of time for what she's doing. They've now made it, a 30-minute appointment, And on top of that, they gave her a new system that she has to track all of her work in. So really, she went from a 60-minute appointment with a veteran down to a 30-minute appointment. But that 30-minute appointment is really only 20 minutes because 10 of those minutes, she's filling out the darn database about what she did with the veteran, right? So if that's okay, like if the VA hospital said, well, well, that's what we want. We want 20-minute appointments, 20-minute patient appointments, and then 10 minutes of follow-up, then that's what it should be. Don't try to schedule a 30-minute appointment and then ask your people to fill out all the paperwork or fill out all the database stuff, because when are they going to get to do that? So those are the considerations on the staffing. The next slice here that we'll talk about is expertise. Do we want to develop the expertise in-house? So in other words, that person that person or persons that are responsible for the database, if they don't have that expertise, do we want to do that in-house? Or do we want to hire a third party, right, to take care of that? Do you need to hire somebody else? As that system becomes more and more essential to the operations of whatever part of the organization it is, do we need to hire somebody to be able to do that? That already has the expertise. And then, of course, what training are available, right? So making it better, we're looking at understanding your reporting needs and making sure that the person who's managing the database, here's another little nuance to this person. This person needs to be a technical expert in the database, but they also need to interface and interact with everybody else in the organization to understand what reports are needed, right? Why are we tracking the data that we're tracking about the volunteers or about the event or about the whatever? And is that going to go into a report to someone? And if so, what part of that, should we be tracking? Um, so understanding the reporting needs, building the data literacy across the organization. So the reverse of what I just said is getting the program managers and the people in the organization that need the reports to be able to speak the same language as that data administrator or that data manager, so that we have a good understanding of, you need to collect this so I can build that report for you, and everything comes out the right way. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to do that. Budget constraints. Obviously you could buy the Cadillac and pay a lot of money for the data system. But if you can't afford that, or you can't figure out how to recoup that money by getting more grants or being able to bill, a third party more money because you're doing a different kind of better work or something like that, then we want to look at making sure that the systems that we have or that we need, we have the budget for. If you're in an organization that, like, Boys and Girls Club is a great example of this. Um, Boys and Girls Club have, seasonality to their workers. When school's in session, they have a lot of people that are, working with the boys and girls. And then as the summer rolls out, they need different people, or they need more or less people, fewer people during the summer because they have camps and stuff like that. So understanding how that affects your licensing and your cost of that system or those systems, and making sure that that's all built into your budget, the right way. Now we're talking about tools, finally, something, right? So what systems do we need? Um, I've been at this a long time. I have a whole history lesson coming up in a minute. I've been at this a long time, and um, the 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 answer to the what systems do we need, build or buy it, right? Build it. Should we build a custom thing, or should we just buy something off the shelf? Do we need integrations or not? And can we stage it so that we start with a little bit and get used to it and then build more and more or buy more and more? The answer to these questions changes over time. as the technology and the landscape changes, right? What systems do we need? You have an organization, you know what your mission and programs are, and you know what data you need to track. Do you need to track volunteers? Some people already said yes in the chat. Do you need to track donors? Probably all 100% of us say yes to that question. Do you need to track participants or cases? Do you need to track health records and that kind of stuff? So you know what you need to track, and the answer to the what systems do you need used to be I'm going to build all one system, right? It's all going to go in the same system because I want all my people logging into the same thing. Then we said, no, it doesn't matter. The volunteer managers can use that system and the donor management and the grants management. And we had, 4 or 5 different systems. The answer might be one or the other or some combination of both of those things. The important part here is that you take the time to build a requirements document. And all of you have to agree on, yes, these are the things that we need, right? We've outlined all of the data systems and all of the data points that we need to track. And we all agree that this is the thing that, this is the thing that we're going to go search for the tool to meet those goals. Find an expert to help you with market research, right? It's really important that you find either peers, right? So sometimes, like, again, if you're in the Boys and Girls Club affiliate, model, or you're a United Way affiliate, or you're, some sort of a chapter thing, chances are either your national office is telling you, hey, you should use this system because that's the one we're going to support, or you can at least talk to your peers and say, hey, national didn't tell us what to use here, but what, are you having success with the one that you have? So talk to your peers. If you're not in that kind of affiliate model, but you are a substance abuse, behavioral health organization or something like that, call some other behavioral health system or substance abuse or shelter, whatever. Call some peers and say, hey, I know you guys have to track, how many hours of volunteer or how many, whatever shelter hours you provided. What system are you using and do you like it? Right? And try to get that sense from people of what that, would be. If you don't have that kind of a thing, then you should hire an expert. Not to be a sales pitch or anything, but we do a lot of this, right? So we have a lot of market research that we've done over the years, and we do that kind of work. Um, and most importantly, beware of excessive customization. If you find somebody who says, I can build that for you, and they are building and building and building and customizing, just know that every customization that happened within that system or those systems that they worked on is going to have ongoing TLC. So it's an ongoing thing because every time you customize a system, it has to be maintained. That customization has to be maintained. The last thing are processes, and we're talking here about manual processes, right? A data system should help you overcome manual processes and help you spend less time, not more time. The example I gave you about my wife was, she feels like she used to have a piece of paper and she could check a couple boxes and send it off to, whatever the VA administration for, Medicaid or Medicare billing or something like that. And now she's 10 minutes on the computer trying to put all the codes in and all that other stuff. Is that a good use of the optometrist time? Probably not, but it has to happen so that the VA, stays financially viable or whatever. Is there a way that we could automate that process? Probably. Can you standardize on things? Yes, using the same codes, making sure that everything is the standard thing. And automation, right? A lot of automation is happening now, and we could talk about that, right? So the number one thing is to make sure that you've documented everything. So I used to work at a manufacturing plant and somebody would literally stand next to us with a stopwatch. And they would, like, soon as you started your task, they'd hit the stopwatch, they would start the timer. And when you ended that, they'd stop it. And these people were looking to shave seconds off. Okay, what can we do about that workspace or that workplace? And they would literally say to me, don't put your screwdriver over there. Put it over here because it'll take you half a second. Like, no kidding. I used to work at a place like that. Um, but you can do those time studies with the data entry stuff too. The data system that we use here at Tech Impact to track all of our help desk tickets and all of the projects that we do and all of that stuff actually has a timer built in. So as we start a task with a particular client record, we start it and we stop it. It's timing it. Tells me I took 5 seconds or I took a minute and a half or whatever I took to do that thing. We can look at that data later and say, okay, I see that all the help desk technicians take 20 seconds to, whatever, enter the thing into the call log. How can we shave that down to 10 seconds? Because if every technician's had 10 extra seconds, we have 25 help desk technicians and we take 100 calls a day, it all adds up, right? So even if it's a 10-second thing, it all adds up. Or how many clicks are we using to get to a particular thing? So I'm going to pause here and ask for questions before I move on to the next part of our um, presentation today, which is a short history of buyer's remorse. Anything in the chat, Aretha? I'm seeing the Q&A, nothing.
Yeah, yeah, it looks like there are conversations. I see Susan said, I'm with a United Way, so we use Andar. It's basically
Andar, that's
here.
right. Good old Andar.
Um, so Wade said, this is exactly what I'm doing now. I'm a creative technologist with prototyping for some strategic org work. Very good. Scott says, I build the tools we use, document them, deploy them, and iterate. It saves a ton. I would love to hear, I would love to hear about that, Scott. Um, Brad, anyone experienced with service? Am I saying that right, Linda? Excuse me, CERVIS.
I guess, yeah, I don't, it's not
Okay,
off the top of my head.
all right.
I think Cerna, I don't think Service, but
Okay. So
okay.
people are sharing some tools they're using, Monday.com, some
Yep.
things that they've had positive experience about. And
Great.
yeah, so that's what I'm seeing so far.
Okay, great. Yeah. All right. So I'll pop into that chat a little bit later, just making sure that there's no questions about the actual, presentation. People can hear me and all that stuff. So that's good. I'm taking a little diversion here on um a quick history lesson because I think it's going to be helpful for some people on the call today to understand the history of data systems. So, like I said, I'm I'm pretty old and I've been working with computers in one way or another for 40 years and I've seen it all, right? And back in 1985, I was introduced to this thing called Microsoft Excel, and I'm telling you, my mind was blown by Microsoft Excel because it was like, oh my gosh, it can do math. And somebody said, yeah, but I'm like, sorting lists and all this other stuff in Microsoft Excel. And I just thought that was the bomb diggity. And I've used Excel ever since, right? The sheet could be set up as rows and columns, right? And that was just like, wow. And I could sort and I could filter and I could get, all kinds of good information in there. And I just thought it was great. That what I just described is called a flat table. It's Excel is a flat file table, right? So it's got rows and columns. Then around, sometime after that, and it's not exact here, but I'm just using 10-year increments here to describe some things, right? Microsoft Access and FileMaker Pro, if anybody's old enough to remember FileMaker Pro, right? Those things came out, and that was another huge step. I says, geez, this is even better. I don't have to go back and forth between two different Excel files to figure out, to how do I link the volunteer hours with the donor hours, right? Well, guess what? Microsoft Access and FileMaker Pro came out and they were called relational databases. The relational database meant I could have multiple tables and link those tables together with a common field to query that information and get more um, better reporting out of that. And that was really great. And there was a lot of training that had to go in, right? Microsoft Excel. I used to work at CompUSA and I would do Excel training classes 3 or 4 days out of the week. When I moved to Tech Impact, and we actually had a training classroom in our Tech Impact office in Philadelphia, and we ran one Excel training a week. Once Microsoft Access came, we were doing, probably 1 or 2 Microsoft Access intro training classes a month because these are databases that we had to train people on. It was a new thing, right? Then the cloud came out, right? Somewhere before 2015, the cloud came out. And the cloud were was a great idea for a couple of reasons, right? The FileMaker database or the Access database was something that Microsoft or FileMaker Pro sold you one time and you used it forever, and they never made another dime off of you. But to get Microsoft Access or FileMaker Pro to be usable by your field workers or by people who were in a different office, right? That kind of access, how do I get connected to that single database that's sitting in the office on a server somewhere? I had to use big VPN networks and, all kinds of crazy stuff to get into it. So the cloud solved both of those problems. It solved the accessibility problem for us by putting everything into the cloud. We just merely needed an internet connection to that cloud service, and we were working from wherever we worked from, right? Which was great. And it solved the vendor's problem because instead of charging you once and never hearing from you again, they were charging you monthly or annually for licensing. So now they're getting a recurring revenue model, right? Which is good for them as well. So systems like Salesforce and Donor Perfect in the cloud and some others, Neon and those kind of things, they started to sprout up. Electronic health records started to be cloud-based so that, now I'm with Jefferson Health System here in Philadelphia area. I can go to any one of their clinics and they can find my records, right? So all that cloud stuff was really great. Um, These are called object-oriented databases. So now we're into something called an object-oriented database, and it's a more complex um, structure behind the scenes. So as a data manager, like when we started with Excel, it was like, okay, just make sure everything's in a row and a column, we're good. When it was a relational database, it's like, okay, I could wrap my head around, all the donor information's here and all the volunteer information's here, and I can link them by a single thing and, get a report out. Now we're into an object-oriented database. Takes a little more training and or outsourcing to an expert to get them set up properly and sometimes even to support them ongoing, right? Along with this cloud and this new way of operating, the technology also started to come into play with things like business insights and automation. And today, all the rage, of course, is the AI stuff. So I'm going to take another layer down here and say, okay, well, here's the same bit of information, but now I'm going to, layer on the reporting side of it, right? Manual reports with Excel. With the Excel type of files, we could probably get to answer that question, how many did we support, right? and we could probably come up with an answer. I filtered it all, I sorted it all, and 100. We served 100, whether they be puppies or children or event tickets or whatever, 100, right? Meals served, whatever, 100. Later on, when we got to Access and FileMaker Pro and those kind of things, we started to layer on a reporting on top of it. So now the database was better. It could be able to capture more information and relate that information back and forth to each other. And we would layer on a reporting system like a Crystal Reports, if you're old enough to remember Crystal Reports, right? Now we can decide, now we can say, well, we helped 10 of them with this much stuff. So not only did we get a quantity in there, but we also got the quantity and the stuff that we did for them. So that answered that kind of second kind of question. When SaaS got built, all the SaaS stuff got built, and we started to layer in things like business insights using Power BI and that kind of stuff, or the manufacturers started to build better reporting engines within their systems because it was cloud-based and they had enough opportunity to do that and enough tech to do that. Now we can start to get even better reports out of it. We helped 100 in multiple locations using 5,000 volunteer hours, right? So now we're starting to build a better story. And now when we layer into something like Power BI reports, not only, this is the cool part for today's world, this is the cool part. Not only can we rely on the data that we collect within our systems, we can also pull information in from other systems, whether we are in control of those systems or not. So for an example, if I'm using a particular data system within my organization to track volunteer hours for the state of Delaware, I can now pull information from external public sources. How many volunteer hours were there total? Right? From all reporting in the state for my particular program or whatever. And I can make a comparison. This is the intelligence part, right? I can make a comparison to say, well, we did 5,000 hours of volunteer, but the state, all the other ones in the state averaged out at 10,000 volunteer hours. Now I can go to my funder and say, hey, we need more funding to support us to get up to the level that we can do more good work because we want to be in line with the other agencies in or in our service area. Things like that, right? So this is why the reporting piece has to happen, right? Remember, how much did we do? How well did we do it? How much did it matter? And how much did it cost, right? Are the questions that we want to be asking. So this is the history. And the reason I bring this up is because I hear all the time so somebody will call me and say, oh, we're using this really crappy database, blah, blah, blah. Well, why are you using it? Well, because Joanne, our new CFO, said she used it in her other place, and now we all have to switch to it, right? Well, that goes back to did Joanne check on everybody's needs, right? But the other thing I hear a lot is, you know, Marty picked this database for us 3 years ago, and now it sucks. Well, oh, am I supposed to say that on text? Well, I just did. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible now, 3 years later, because either the technology advances in the marketplace, this one is, outdated, or your needs changed over the last 2 or 3 years, or you didn't do that first thing with assigning somebody to manage the database and keep up with it and providing them with the job skills and training to make that happen, right? So it kind of fell by the wayside and now nobody's using it anymore. And now maybe we have shadow systems and you're back in the market for this. I always, let people know that no matter what system you buy today, somebody's going to hate it 2 months from now, 2 years from now, or 5 years from now. Everybody's going to hate it, right? Because you've got to keep up with it. You either need to plan to adapt that database to the changing needs of your organization or the changing times in your environment, or replace it every 3 to 5 years. The good news about replacing data systems in today's world is because all those cloud systems are generally, the data in them are generally portable, we can make that change. So if you're in the Razor's Edge today and you want to move to a different system, Donor Perfect or something like that, tomorrow, because you do your research and you see that that's a better fit for your needs and your budget, et cetera, you can, generally speaking, get that Razor's Edge, the information out of Razor's Edge and import it into the new system that you picked. I'm not suggesting that you get rid of Razor's Edge. I'm simply using it as an example. So no matter what system you're moving to and from, generally speaking, the data today is more portable than it was way back in the day of like a FileMaker. Getting things out of FileMaker Pro was trouble. That relational database stuff was really trouble. So you can make that move. So, but plan to do it. I would revisit the database in every strategic plan. So if your board tells you to do a strategic plan every couple of years, you should do it and take into consideration what data systems do I need and am I in the right one? Okay. So how do you go about choosing the right system? There are so many choices out there now. Like I showed you, that timeline that first and foremost, I hope the history was a little bit helpful and not a complete waste of your time. I'd love to know your opinion on that in the chat or in the survey that I'm sure TechSoup's going to send you later. Um, there's so many choices out there. Back in the timeline, we had Excel and we had another one called Lotus 123, which people were a fan of. Or Access or FileMaker Pro. And then once we started to get into the cloud, there were some vendors who took a chance on trying to get their for-profit business system like Salesforce to also work with nonprofits. So we had something like Salesforce, which was meant for sales teams of bigger companies to go out and like track their sales and stuff like that. And somebody there said, hey, we should probably figure out how to use the same model to track, nonprofit stuff. So they came up with the nonprofit starter pack and stuff like that. So they were trying to get a business thing to work for nonprofits. And I think that they were successful in doing that to the point where other companies said, let's just focus on nonprofit. Nonprofit is our marketplace, and we're going to just build this nonprofit thing. And there's a lot of them that are available now that just deal with nonprofit stuff. And the pace at which we see new systems come to market is just remarkable. Somebody mentioned Neon, right? Neon just sprang out of nowhere just out of nowhere a couple of years ago. Bloomerang is another one. Bloomerang, didn't exist, and now it's the latest, greatest thing. And some have fallen by the wayside. If you did a search, if you Google it, you're going to get all the answers are going to come back top 25, top 19, top this, top that. Going from I don't know what to choose to having 25 to choose from is still pretty daunting. But today you can, I call it AI it, right? You could chat GPT it, or you could co-pilot it, or you could Claude it, or you could, whatever your AI, your GPT engine of choices. And the AI answer will come back. You just type in there like, hey, what's the best donor management platform, for nonprofits? And it's going to come back and keep asking you more and more questions. And it's still going to only narrow it down to, 5 or 10 choices for you. There's no best fit for everyone, right? Still doesn't know your exact needs. The third one is go with what you know, right? Here's the one I used at my last job, and I know it, so we're gonna use it here. The other thing I mentioned earlier, ask peers. What are they going to use, right? But really, the better way to do is keep those questions in mind and start to ask yourself and put together some key considerations. what is the purpose of the tool, right? So outline the purpose of the tool. What's the best, do we want a best in breed or best of suite? What does that mean? Best of breed means find the best donor management tool and use it. Best in suite means find the best tool that can track multiple things all at once and use that even if there's a little bit of a trade-off where it doesn't do the donor management thing to the nth degree. But I also don't have to jump into another system to track volunteers, right? So I either have a really good donor management and a really good volunteer management, or I find one that does both. It might not do both of those things perfectly, but that's okay because I don't have to buy two systems and I don't have to train people on two systems. That's what that means, right? Do I need integrations? Everybody today is going to need an integration. So yes, which integrations do you need, right? So for as an example, we have an integration where we take information off of our website and we integrate it. We use HubSpot as our marketing engine. So it comes off of our website. We have to use an integration to get it into HubSpot. Once it's in HubSpot, I have to now push it to that other system that I told you about, Halo, that tracks all the projects. So somebody's interested in doing a project with us, they fill out the web form. There's an integration that happens to push it to HubSpot. Once it's in HubSpot, that's my sales tool. And now I'm working with you. I'm getting on a call with you. You say, yes, you want to do the project. And yes, you want to pay us money to do it. I put a proposal together and everything like that. Once you sign that proposal, I have to pass it off to Halo, so that the people that are actually doing the job with you, the technicians and engineers that are doing the job with you, have somewhere to track their progress against that project, et cetera. And then finally, we push it to NetSuite, which is our accounting software, so that you can get sent the bill, right? So we're in 4 different systems. If you contact us from our so there's the website, there's HubSpot, there's Halo, and then finally there's NetSuite. We're running 4 different systems, but we chose those systems because we asked the question, can I integrate the website to HubSpot? Yes. Can I integrate HubSpot? Yes, 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 right? So we're making that as a consideration to make sure that we have all that integration. And so now we've got this giant workflow that we can work around. And then finally, is it affordable, right? So those are some key consideration. Now we're talking about some more requirements here. Can the system be customized if needed, right? So in our Halo system, for an example, in our Halo system was built for help desk tickets and firms and companies that run help desks. But we also do this other kind of work that Halo wasn't built to do, right? Workforce development's an example of that. Can we customize Halo to get the workforce development to be tracked in there, right? So that might be, yeah, if it's a yes, then we would, find out how much that customization would cost. If it's a no, we would look for a workforce development system, but make sure that that integration is there so we could push and pull information back and forth. Are there any third-party apps that integrate? Some of you might need a third-party app like a GPS app or a payment, right? Like Stripe payment or Square payment thing, right? Make sure that it can integrate with that. What's the fee structure? In some cases, it would be a per user annual license. In other cases, it might be you get so many records and, so many records. Oh, once you exceed 10,000, volunteers or 1,000 volunteers in your database, you have to pay more for it, right? Just understand what that is. Understand the security that's included with that system and the API to ingest. That's like the integration, right? An API can ingest external information and export to another system. So sometimes it's referred to as an integration. Other times they are more specific and they call it an API. So making sure that you can do that, right? I gave you the example of we track 5,000 volunteer hours, but we wanted to compare that against the whole state of Delaware, like who's doing more or less, of the volunteer management. And we're ingesting information from the public data set to get to that, or, to get to that answer. And then what kind of support model does the system have? In some cases, you're going to need to know whether you're paying for that license and it includes support from the company that you're paying, or do you need to get the support from an internal person that you train to do that and provide them the time, carve the time out for them to actually um, handle those requests, those support requests, or do you hire a third party, right? So Salesforce is an example of that, right? Salesforce doesn't sell you support directly. They either provide you with, the trailhead training to have somebody in your organization get trained up so that they can support it, or you would find a third party vendor that is a Salesforce expert and could support that stuff for you, right? So tech impact, we're here to help. Like I said, we've got 22 years of doing this kind of work. And normally I start here with the second big bullet point, consulting engagement. For years and years, we did a consulting engagement that cost somewhere between $4,800 and $8,000. It's a great engagement. We work with you. Our consulting team works with you to document all of the requirements that I said that you should document. Make sure that there's consensus among all the teams. So we do a lot of stakeholder interviews and make sure that every aspect of what's needed for that data system and the interactions with that are all accounted for. We do the market research on that. We go out and we know a lot of them already, and we find new ones, and we do some market research and we pare that down and we provide your recommendation of your, say, top two choices in that area. We've done that since I've been here. And the price is the same as when the price never goes up on that thing for some reason. We also do a big data strategy project. So if you have really complex, all those integrations and APIs and you're not sure, and workflows, and you're not sure how all that plays together, it's a bigger project and it costs more money, and we can map all that stuff out for you. But what I challenged the team to do over the summer is I challenged the team to figure out how to take that $4,800 project and make it cheaper by using AI to do the market research part. So a lot of that $4,800 is to cover the hours that our team uses to ask you your requirements and do the market research. So it's hours and hours of time, which you're paying us for. I said, let's use AI and do that market research. So our team, our data lab team, came back and we work with TechSoup on how to position this right. We have a new product or a new service that's just launched. Megan from TechSoup just gave me the link today. It's up on the website. For $450, we're going to have a brief consultation with you to get your requirements outlined. We've got a systematic approach to asking you questions that we need. We're going to take that information. We've got prompts written that we're going to feed that information into, and then we're going to run it through two, maybe three, depending on your needs, two, maybe three GPT or Gen AI engines. Do that, compare what they come back with, and then provide you your report with the top two or three. That should get a lot of you started. So if you're overwhelmed with, I don't even know where to begin my search for a CRM, for now, if you're looking for a CRM/donor management platform and you don't need to track in that same system donors and volunteer hours or donors and events, or don't or CR and grant, right? If you just want a CRM system for $450 and a day or two worth of time, right? 30-minute consultation with our team. Give us a day or two to run the ChatGPT engines and all that stuff, put the report together and send it back out to you. It's worth $450. So we're just launching that today. We're pretty excited about it. So those are the three ways that we can help. I still see no questions, Aretha, in the questions thing.
There was a lot of conversation, and somebody said they really loved your history lesson.
Yay. One person loved it. Yay.
I'll
Thank you.
scroll up. But yeah, they said when you were talking about Excel, I thought it was interesting too because I was fascinated by Excel as well back in
I
the day.
still use I like I they put a crown on my head. I'm the Excel queen. To this day, I'm the Excel queen here at Tech Impact. So you have an Excel question, they all come to me.
I saw
Um,
I saw a comment though about data safety when you start talking about the offer. Let me see if I can find it. Um, but while your wheels are turning, I'm sure, as you mentioned that you'd be putting the information into chat, I'm sure
mhm,
they're not going to send any sensitive
mhm,
data to you all.
mhm. Well,
Wait,
yeah, as a bonus, right? I'm going to keep clicking through my slides because as a bonus, when you get the slide presentation, I didn't want to go through it today, but there's a whole new next section that I felt was important to give out afterwards for people to read through on data governance and protection, right? Because it's a pretty important component of as we think through the integrations and how we're using AI now today and everything to talk about data governance and protection. So you'll get those slides that are pretty self-explanatory about how to do that. So I hope that helps to answer one of the comments or questions.
yeah, and I think that was it. This is very helpful, Linda. I learned a lot myself. So thank you for being with us today.
You are welcome. I'm going to stop my sharing.
I do see a little question in the Q&A. Did you see that or did you answer that? We're a tiny team, three full-time, two part-time, and we're looking to track our content engagement so that we can identify gaps and opportunities and to open up what's going on with the rest of the organization versus it being stuck with one person. There are questions coming in the chat now, okay, in the
Yeah.
Q&A.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Um, it says, I'm afraid of doing too much work and investing too much in a software and process to make it worthwhile to identify partners, investments, and grantors. We don't have that many contacts, but we will build it. How do I know
Mhm.
quickly how much to invest in this?
This is how I would recommend starting out, right? Does anybody know the answer? Excel, right? I would recommend if you're in Microsoft 365, I would recommend putting an Excel table together or something, build something in SharePoint to track it. If you're in Google, I would recommend starting to track it in Google Drive. Like if you don't know what you need and you don't know how to even articulate that to somebody that could help you answer that question, just start tracking some stuff in either Google Sheets or Excel in your Google Drive or in your SharePoint system and see, like you have to live with it for a while to start to recognize what do I really need to track? What am I tracking and not using as in the report? What questions do I want to ask of this information that I'm trying to gather, right? And then if it seems to be either overwhelming you time wise or starting to see like it's coming together, the soup's coming together, so to speak, then you can start to take that information and look for a system that might help you track it. I would never invest in a system of any sort if I didn't really understand exactly what that data set looked like to begin with. I hope
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, you were helpful, and she did say they do use Excel. So, Susan said, "What is needed to track info required re regarding or referencing being a 501(c)(3)?"
Where are you seeing that one?
In the Q&A.
I have one that says Oh, what is needed to track info required for being a file? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not really sure what the question is. But if it's, if they're looking for IRS information, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, and I think Brad just kind of had a comment to it's a long question in the Q&A, but I think it was more of a statement. He did ask, am I alone? Basically saying every time he switches to a new software, he wish he had time to rebuild everything from the ground
Mhm.
up and just the ecosystem of using new technology.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Is anybody, so Brad, if you're asking, is anybody else like me? The answer is yes. A lot of people are like you, right? You're working in systems. If you've built it, if you've customized and built it, yeah, you're right. You're gonna have to keep rebuilding it in whatever the new technology platform is. Um, I still have calls with people who say, I don't want to get rid of my Access database. Can I move it into the cloud? And the answer really is not really. You're going to have to rebuild it in some sort of a, new cloud technology, unless you just want to host it in Azure. And hosting an Access database in Azure ends up, being a lot to manage, maintain, secure, right? When we're building these things and we're trying to host them ourselves, we take all of the security and data loss risk on ourselves, all of it, right? If we move to a SaaS vendor, some of that is their responsibility, right? The breaking into the, platform level stuff, they're assuming the risk on. You're assuming the risk of just managing the data and securing the data part of it. You don't have to secure the servers in the data center and the platform and, all that stuff. You're paying for that. So
Wow.
yeah,
Thank you.
it's a lot. Anyway, I hope you guys got a lot out of it. I know Aretha wants to keep you on the call for a couple more minutes to go through survey.